Yeah, here we go. That's how we walk. You know what I'm saying? Represent Jesus. Yeah, cause when we walk.
Hey y'all doing? I'm excited. I want to get back into this Holy Megillah. This is, I think, chapter 30. Yes, in the New Testament of the Nasarean Bible of the Essene way. I've already done a few of these chapters over here in another video. So I'll put this in a playlist with the verses that go before this one. Right now, we're in this selected doings and sayings of Miriam in Ethiopia. It happens to be where the Lady Christ Miriam initiates her first two disciples, Migdanah and Sarah. This is a mother and daughter. If you've been following my channel, you know that Sarah is the authorized scribe. So this is Sarah telling the story from her own experience when she met and became a disciple. So here we go. And there's 7 disciples totally of Miriam. So I'm going to try to read real fast and get through this. Behold, half a year after Miriam departed India for Ethiopia, she met my mother, Migdanah. At this time, the Nasarean remnant in Ethiopia was but a scattered few dozen. These few were in hiding, being persecuted by the larger Aaronite contingent in Ethiopia and by some others. My mother, Migdanah, and I had just suffered the death of my father. I was 5 years of age at that time. I was 5 years of age, and at that time was called Sarah, and loved my father very much. My father Absalom was slain by Aaronites, for lo, Aaronites came to burn our home, believing my mother Migdanah to be a witch. My father woke us up one night and said, I smell trouble. He snuck Migdanah and I out the back of our hut and told us to hide in the woods. Then he went back to the hut to see what trouble was at the door. Behold, the Aaronites had discovered that we were Nasarean and had come to burn our house. They also claimed that my mother was a witch and that they must take her into custody. They bound my father and beat him, trying to force him to tell the location of Migdanah. He was beaten to the death of his physical body, but his spirit ascended unto El Cush. Migdanah took me and fled towards Alexandria. Miriam had just departed Alexandria for Ethiopia, for she had been visiting Rose the Yaira. As Miriam crossed the wilderness of Egypt and entered Ethiopia, she met Migdanah and me. Miriam ministered unto us, for we were traumatized by the death of my father and our narrow escape. Lo, Miriam was clearly no ordinary woman. Even at 5, I recognized her spiritual grandeur. She was beautiful and strong, wise and compassionate, and her eyes saw all and through all and revealed the all. My mother and I were healed by her presence, and we loved her and wished to serve her. We did not want to leave her side and begged the privilege of becoming her disciples. Yea, we wanted to become her students and helpers, and lo, she accepted us. First, she initiated my mother, Migdanah, as a disciple. Weeks later, realizing that I also felt called to discipleship, Miriam baptized me as her second disciple, saying, the call of discipleship is from within the student. Miriam took us to a mountain river. There she baptized us into her circle of students in the Nasarean religion of the Essene way. During the time that Miriam lived with Nabiah, we lived there also, and whenever Miriam traveled, we were by her side. Though my mother was not a priestess, Nabiah permitted her to attend certain of the classes. Nabiah said, whoever becomes a disciple of Miriam is welcome to live on this land. Yea, and whenever Miriam is called to travel and teach, I shall not interfere with that call. For lo, I may be called her teacher, but she is my mother. Migdanah and I pondered the words of Nabiah. It was then that we realized Miriam was the incarnation of Jannah. Now I will give an account of each disciple of Miriam and how they came to her. Miriam initiates her third disciple, Ya'ara accepts the call to discipleship. So Miriam and her first two disciples went on a journey. Shortly after beginning the journey, behold, we camped in a wooded area near a creek. That evening we sat by the warmth of a fire, and Miriam told teaching stories. After telling several stories, Miriam sensed the presence of a young woman in the forest. Lo, the young woman had not yet revealed herself, but Miriam felt her presence and noticed her up in the branches of a nearby tree, hiding but listening to the stories. Pretending not to see the girl, Miriam told another story to Migdanah and Sarah. She said, once there was a beautiful girl with long black locks and beautiful brown eyes. She was all alone in the forest. Then the beautiful girl heard the noise of travelers coming her way. Quickly, she climbed a tree and hid. The travelers were two women and a 5-year-old girl. They seemed safe. Did you guys know that Sarah, the one that's writing this, was initiated as a disciple at 5 years old, according to this account here? So she knew the Lady Christ her entire life. Okay, well, from 5 years old. That's awesome. All right, so then this is Miriam telling the story. She's telling the story about themselves. The travelers were two women and a 5-year-old girl. They seemed safe, but the beautiful young woman remained hidden and watched. The travelers built a campfire and began to cook a pot of beans. Then one of the women began to tell stories. The beautiful young girl enjoyed the stories and greatly desired to come out of the hiding and ask for a bowl of beans. The smell of the beans was appetizing, and the beautiful young woman longed for company. Finally, she worked up the courage to climb out of the tree and show herself. She and the travelers became fast friends, and the beans were delicious. Miriam stopped speaking and listened. The young woman in the tree giggled and said, I know that story is about me. Obviously, you have noticed me, though I thought myself cleverly hidden. Is the story true? Is the story you were telling true? If I come down, will we be friends? Miriam replied, yes, and you can have a bowl of beans. The young woman, 20 years of age, came down from the tree, and indeed all became fast friends. Her name was Ya'ara, which means forest, and here follows her story. When Ya'ara was a child of 7, she was playing in the woods near her home, and then behold, Aaronites attacked, killing the Nasarean family and burning the home. Little Ya'ara fled into the deep woods and lived with the creatures of the forest for many years. She learned to speak the language of the birds, beasts, and unseen. The Alefim watched over her. Then one night before she met Miriam, an Alef, which is an elf, it's a Nasarean word for elf, revealed himself to her, saying, Ya'ara, I am Gahwenjahman of the Alefim of the Tree of Life, a sacred order found before this world was born. I am also the Alefim of the deep forest meadows, an order of Alefim that interacts with select humans in this world. Lo, we have watched over you during your years in the forest. You are one of the very few humankind who could speak to plants and animals, wherefore we honor you, and we name you an Alef friend. The circle of Alef friends is a circle of kindred spirits who dance with the Alefim in the forest of this and other worlds. Behold, the time has come for you to live again with humankind. For lo, the Lady Jannah and her small flock now come. I offer parting advice. When the lady offers you a bowl of beans, receive it as though it were a great feast, for so it is. She will feed not only your body, but also your spirit. Eat from her plate and be truly fed. Yea, drink of her cup and be satisfied. Wherefore Ya'ara was prepared for her first human contact in many years. The morning after Ya'ara joined us, we took her to a mountain river. There Miriam baptized Ya'ara into her circle of students in the Nasarean religion of the Essene way. Miriam told us that this is the first baptism, and there are other baptisms as we ascend the path of the Essene mountain of peace. The other baptisms depend on proficiency in what we learn. The first acknowledges that we have entered her circle of students, and so it was that Ya'ara became the third disciple of the Lady Christ. Right. That's about 10 minutes, so I'm going to put the other 4 disciples, because that was 3, and she has 7. I'm going to put the other 4 on another video, okay? So it'll be right after this one. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. I did want to say something, that what I've been putting on the videos is this is her story. You guys know that. Like, this is I mean, It's her story, just like we have his story. Well, it's her story. It's just as simple as that. They should have been given to us together, but for some, ulterior motive, they were separated. But we have both sides of the story now, and so a lot of us are going to be able to come into balance, because that's what we need. We need to understand both sides of the pole. We known it as night and day, or light and dark, or male and female, but they are in one of the mothers, I think it's Mary, she said that just like Eve was made for Adam, Adam was made for Eve. And once we can understand that and get that comprehension in our minds, that in order to bring balance to this world, we have to balance those energies within ourselves. And it's just really, it's off balance because of the programming and what we've been told, and what we believe. But yeah, so here's her story. We're not going to get rid of his story. We're going to have both. We're going to have the whole story. How about that? Here's the whole story, the Holy Megillah. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Straight and narrow. Avoid the wide and crooked. SOTL soldiers.
When we walk, we don't mess around. Lord Jesus, bless the ground. When we walk, we don't mess around. Lord Jesus, bless the ground. When we walk.